Join me as I dive into the numbers and see if I can predict whether women's sports revenue will really hit $2.35 billion by 2025. Revenues in elite women's sports are growing significantly faster than previously predicted and are forecast to reach at least $2.35 billion, £1.82 billion globally in 2025, according to new Deloitte research. Leaping ahead of women's football, women's basketball is now projected to generate more than $1 billion of revenue alone in 2025, up 44%. In 2023, Deloitte reported that all women's sports combined would generate more than $1 billion for the first time throughout 2024, and the true figure by the end of 2024 was far higher than anticipated, reaching $1.88 million after a 240% increase in the space of just 4 years. However, the release of this latest research comes fewer than 24 hours after the publication of a separate report by World Football's governing body, FIFA, which has highlighted the stark reality of the financial challenges many women's football clubs and leagues still face. After surveying 669 clubs from 101 different territories around the world, FIFA found the average salary for players worldwide is $10,900, $8,420. FIFA also found that, for leagues, average operating expenses are 71.1% higher than average operating revenue across the 24 territories considered by FIFA to be the highest ranked, and it found that only 4 leagues had title sponsorship deals worth more than $1 million a year. On average, year-on-year losses are being made at 67% of the top clubs, which FIFA categorized as Tier 1 clubs, and FIFA's report states that the sport is in the startup business phase of development. Matchday revenues remain low, owing to average attendances globally of 1,713 and an average ticket price of $9.30 for adults and $4.60 for concessions, with only 20% of women's football clubs offering season tickets. Nonetheless, Deloitte's projections show rapid increases in financial backing at the elite end of women's sport more widely, and Jennifer Haskell, the Knowledge and Insight Lead in the Deloitte Sports Business Group, says they are seeing immense growth across the global women's sports market, which is exceeding expectations. Speaking to The Guardian prior to the publication of Deloitte's newest data, Haskell said, "Commercially, there's so much opportunity for growth because we know the women athletes are more likely to engage with fans on their social posts, for example. We're also seeing new brands enter women's sport, from markets that don't necessarily have a sporting background when it comes to their sponsorship, but that are recognizing the leverage that a lot of women's sports organizations have. Commercial revenues far outweigh broadcast incomes in Deloitte's projections, on which Haskell added, "We're seeing commercial being the growth lever for women's sports, at least in the next few years to come, which is a little bit different than men's sport, which is heavily driven by broadcast. In the long term, I think women's football will retake women's basketball, because of the sheer amount of assets, but also because the professionalization journey that women's football is on globally will support that revenue growth that we're already starting to see. In basketball, we're starting to see that star power really take hold, athletes with their own major commercial deals and with merchandising increasing quite heavily. Global women's football revenues are predicted to rise from $740 million in 2024 to $820 million in 2025, while women's basketball revenues are projected to jump from $710 million to $1.03 billion. But FIFA's report also highlights the relatively low number of women getting managers' jobs at women's clubs. Only 22% of head coach roles are filled by women globally. FIFA's chief football officer, Jill Ellis, said, "While we cannot improve this figure overnight, by unearthing and analyzing the data, we can understand where we need to continue to invest, implement, and perhaps even evolve our women's coach development programs to unlock more opportunities for women and empower everyone working in women's football." Encourage viewers to share their thoughts on women's sports revenue in the comments and invite them to watch another related video on your channel.